Welcome to the Together for Sharon podcast, episode 3. I'm Sharon's son, George. Along with me is my beautiful wife, Sharon's daughter-in-law, and also together we were my mother's caretakers when she was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. Unfortunately, she passed on 1/1/2020, but we started TogetherForSharon.com in her memory. Today, we wanted to welcome Marie Livingston. We met a while ago, and since we've become, in my view, like family, we've all been brought together, in my opinion, to help raise awareness and hope for a cure. Welcome, Melissa, and I just wanted to tell you personally how inspiring it is to see all the work you're doing as well through advocacy and social media. I know you recently teamed up with Drive Toward a Cure and working with your local congressman or woman to help in the national and Parkinson's disease legislation. So welcome again.
Thank you so much. I'm happy to be here.
Thought we just start if you want to tell us a little bit about yourself.
Let's see. Well, I'm a mom of 4. We just moved to Texas because I met someone who also has Parkinson's, and we hit it off and we decided that we were gonna go on this adventure together. So Greg and I just drove 1,400 miles with 2 kids, 2 guinea pigs, and 2 cats in a minivan. All the way to Texas. I was diagnosed with Parkinson's in 2020, but I had symptoms since 2016. So I kind of had an idea that it was going to be something kind of not great. But they did originally diagnose me with multiple sclerosis, and then rescinded that diagnosis, and we're like, we don't really know what it is. So it takes time. It's a very tricky disease. But when I was diagnosed, I promised myself, I felt very alone. I was in a bad relationship and a lot of stuff going on. So when I was diagnosed, I promised myself that if I could help one person who was diagnosed with Parkinson's not feel the way that I did when I got diagnosed, then that was what I was going to do, which kind of started this whole advocacy, and it's just become tumbleweed, but a very good one.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much for introducing yourself, Melissa. I was wondering, you touched on it, that you were initially misdiagnosed. What were the symptoms that led to you even going to the doctor to get a diagnosis for?
Well, originally I thought I had carpal tunnel. I worked for a printing company, and I used the mouse like 8 hours a day. Right. So originally I was like, oh, I have a little carpal tunnel. Then I had a little knot in the muscle of my leg, and very quickly, within like the first couple of months, I developed a tremor. And when that started, I was like, oh, this is a problem. So I probably started symptoms around like fall of 2016. I didn't go to the doctor until February 2017. I pushed it off because it was busy season and things like that. I was like, oh, it's probably just carpal tunnel. So I was very surprised when my doctor was first like, well, even though you have a background of Parkinson's, my grandfather also had Parkinson's disease. She was like, I think it's multiple sclerosis because I also have a family history of that. And that was bad enough as it was, but I actually thought that MS was the better diagnosis, but it really isn't. I think Parkinson's is a little bit more workable, but one way or the other.
Yeah, thank you.
Sure.
What was it like with your family, trying to adjust? Or I know we even thought about writing a book for my kids because my 3 kids didn't understand anything about what their grandmother was going through. So yeah. What was the toughest part about, telling the family or even having your children understand?
I think part of it was because my kids there's such a large discrepancy in their ages. They're 11 to 30 or 10 to 30. Liam's not 11 yet. I'm already rounding up, but they're 10 to 30. So we have different levels of understanding, and one of my children has special needs. So she's kind of just like, your hand shakes, I'll hold your hand. She's very sweet. She holds my hand with trembling and it stops, she's figured that out, which is really amazing. So I basically went home and I told the older 2, like, this is what it is. and they reacted differently. You know, my daughter, my oldest daughter is a little bit more like, well, like you're super mom and you've got this and it's gonna be fine. And my son was like, oh man, you know, he's like, what now? Like, what do we do? Where do we go? I didn't know much about Parkinson's disease. My experience with my grandfather was I really thought that I was going to live with it for 14 or 15 years and that was going to be it for me. Because that was his experience. And that was, I refused, the whole time I was waiting to get diagnosed, I refused to do any research because I couldn't kind of come to terms with the fact that that was a distinct possibility, even though I knew it was in the back of my head. So I said to him, well, I really know what I'm going to do. He's like, well, what if it changes your life? I was like, well, then I'm just going to have to change the world, you know? So that's what I'm trying to do one step at a time, is just change people's perception and change legislation and just keep talking until eventually the right ears listen.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you, because you mentioned your grandfather and Sharon was also older. What's it like having this disease, being younger and being a young mom, because you have 2 young children still, you know?
Yeah. It's difficult, you know. Greg and I both kind of go through that because he has a son who's 9. So it's challenging, especially with understanding the nuances of it and explaining to them, like, okay, I can't do this right now. You know, the main thing that they complain about, which is actually a little bit funny, is we'll be in a store and my 13-year-old will be like, we're walking really slow. Like people are looking at us. I'm like, well, that's how I walk. Like today, right now, this is as fast as I can go. You know, but I guess you just kind of meet the challenges head on as they come. And they do have a basic understanding of what is coming to a degree. I do have the tendency to sugarcoat things a little bit, not much, but because I don't want to give them like the naked truth. But I also want them to understand that there are things coming that might not be great, but we're going to work through them just like we're working through these things now. Yeah. I think that's the key to this whole thing, is to kind of just let them know matter of factly, like, this is how it is, and it's not always going to be great, but we're going to keep pushing until it is as great as we can make it. And they're pretty content with that. So it's just meeting those challenges head on and just being matter of fact and honest about it to the degree that you feel like they can understand. So
Yeah.
there is a challenge, but you know.
That's a great outlook. Yeah, I agree. I mean, that's like everyday life too, you know. You're gonna have challenging days and all you can do is work with what you got in today.
I agree.
Have you sought any therapies or any things to help with your Parkinson's in your area or virtually?
So far, as far as alternative therapies, or
There's like boxing classes, dancing classes, you know, physical things like that, or music therapy.
Rocksteady. So
Right.
Greg just joined up with Rocksteady, and he hasn't started yet because he's waiting for his authorization from his doctor. So now I have to do the same thing. So he'll start before me. So we're going to do that together. So I thought that would be cool, and that's good for neuroplasticity and also for you know, offsetting the symptoms and delaying the progression, things like that. And also, I also do with I don't know if you know Darby Schlosser, but she runs a Motivation Foundation, and they do a lot with cueing and neuroplasticity in Parkinson's, where you memorize digits of pi to a story that has mnemonic devices in it, and it also includes movement and stuff like that. So then we doing these crazy things like YMCA backwards while reciting pi and stuff like that, and it's hysterical because I think the average person would be challenged by it.
Yeah.
And I just laugh at myself. So I got my friend Chris, who also has Parkinson's, I got him to do it, and we do that together. I've taken a break, but I'm going to start back up week after next. So those are a couple of things that I find neuroplasticity to be important to be, because I have that fear of losing my memory and things like that. So and I do tend to be a little bit forgetful. So I don't want to just keep pushing that brain situation as much as I can. So kind of keep that all where it's supposed to be.
We met because of obviously awareness. I thought when I was going through, obviously we're more of the caretaker, but when I was taking care of my mother, I felt alone, honestly, most of the time. So I decided to start Together for Sharon, but really not just kind of keep my mother's memory going, but now also share other individuals. And you were one of my first. So one thing I'm always love to discuss is how do you think we can get more awareness out there? I mean, obviously both of us, I think, don't sleep already. Like I think
Oh,
sometimes I post at 4 a.m. and I see you posting too. So I don't know, that's not helping either of our health, but I feel like some days I don't feel I can rest until individuals like you know, are okay. And I find we're all kind of forced together, but I feel like we're family. I might have
right,
lost my mother, but I've gained so many incredible and inspiring people in my life. And, you know, it's not just touching, but it's hard because sometimes you want to help and some people for some reason think you want some. That's not what
right,
we're here for. We're all just want to, you know, cure. And I like what Michael J. Fox Foundation always says, they'll be gone, you know, they won't be gone until the cure is here, something similar to that. It's the same way I think. But what do you think we can do more? I mean, I don't know if me and you personally could do more, but what do you have planned, or what do you think we could do more for literally awareness? Because I feel if more people were aware, we would already have a cure. And also, I do think that the work you're doing, and I actually spoke to our local Congresswoman also, to end Parkinson's disease, and having the as an attorney and a police officer, and I have a PhD, but all those things through Congress are really, I think, a huge factor in changing what's happening. And I can't believe it's only the first time legislation is, you know, bipartisan happening, which is kind of sad, but definitely exciting at the same time. But again, what do you think we can do to get more people to understand Parkinson's and help us find a cure?
I think one of the main things is just kind of still putting it out there, what the experience is like. Because what I've encountered in just trying to have candid conversations with people that don't have Parkinson's is that they're like, oh, so what is that? Like your handshakes and stuff? And I'm like, yeah, well, it's worse than that. And you don't want to just dump on them like a bunch of like terrible stuff. But really, there's over 40 symptoms to Parkinson's, and I feel like most people would be hard pressed to name more than like slowness of gait and like trembling or something to that degree. So what we're trying to do, and I say we because I do connect with, I kind of feel like, you know, like when you do like a police investigation and you're kind of like connecting those dots and stuff like that. I kind of feel like it's kind of like that. I'm connecting this person to that person and that person and this person. And I think that was really the point of Parkinson's Looks Like Me, was to represent not only the YOPD community, but people with Parkinson's in general. Like we're not that hunched over old man anymore. We're a diverse community of people who are living with this condition, and we do need help. So putting ourselves out there and just pushing that image of a competent person, but also a person that's struggling, and being honest with your symptoms and filming yourself. Like I film myself when I'm off. I film myself when I'm crying. I film myself when I'm, you know, when my kids are like have me at my wit's end, because that's real life. That's the way it is. And I don't feel like going out there and showing people that I can run a marathon is the only way to show them that people with Parkinson's are out there. I want them to know that yes, I can run a marathon, but maybe not today because you know. So I feel like that's important, just to constantly get that conversation going and talk about it as much as we possibly can, and spread it as wide as we can until it has to catch somewhere. I feel like right now, I feel like we're at a precipice with the National Plan to End Parkinson's Act, which is a very long title. I feel like that's one of the best things that's come around for Parkinson's in quite a while, because they passed. I think it was at least 5 years ago. They passed the National Plan to End Parkinson's and Alzheimer's Act. and so much legislation and research and new medications came out of that for people with Alzheimer's, that it can only be beneficial to people with Parkinson's, you know?
It's amazing to see the social media. Obviously, we've had bad things from social media, but it's been positive for Parkinson's community because I've been able to connect with you and other people around the world now. I know could have numbers incorrect, but last time I looked, it was approximately 1 million people in the U.S. with Parkinson's, but through the World Parkinsons Congress, I learned there's 10 million around the world. And I find that we're so much stronger when we're all, together. Unfortunately, the last one was in Barcelona. It's tough for us to travel, but I heard a rumor they may have one here in the U.S. So I hope one day we'll all get to meet together in person.
That's what I'm hearing. I'm hoping that they have the next one here. I mean, they've had a couple of them. I wanted to go to Barcelona, but it was just too much to get there. So.
I imagine, I'm surprised I asked them too why they don't have it virtually, because they could gain a lot of donations and things, because we would pay a lot to just be able to sit in live from the US there. But so which social media and then I wanted to throw back to Grather, but which social media platform do you think is working the best for awareness when you do it? I know we have like too many of them, but
I feel like right now TikTok is the #1 social media platform in the world. And on TikTok, the hashtag that I started when I started posting on Instagram, Parkinson's Looks Like Me, has 21.1 million views.
Oh, wow.
And that's since not this past July, but a year ago, July. So in that time, that's pretty provocative. And that's not just me, that's a bunch of different people.
Yeah.
And through that hashtag, just on Instagram alone, I feel like Instagram and TikTok are probably the most useful. But Facebook is also useful as far as advocacy, the way I do it, focusing more on the mental health aspect, because more older people use Facebook than they use Instagram. So they all have their benefits. Twitter is also, or X is also useful, just for medical advocacy and things like that, because a lot of doctors connect on there, and a lot of people with Parkinson's connect with doctors on there. And so I feel like it kind of runs the gamut, but I would definitely say TikTok is an underused platform, because not everybody wants to read my 2,200 character maxed out Instagram caption, because it's a lot, and we have Parkinson's, and maybe 5 minutes of your time at 4 a.m. is not really what you're looking for. Even though I think it does pretty well. So I do honestly think that short videos like that, just kind of putting it out there and getting the message out to people, not only people with Parkinson's, but people outside of the Parkinson's community, is something that will help us. And there's several creators on there that do have that following, where it's not just people. Mine is almost completely people with Parkinson's or caregivers. Somebody like say Amber, like not the fake Amber, she's the one that, like, she has diverse followings where it's not just people with Parkinson's, and I think that's so important, because that's where the awareness is going to come from.
Yeah, we just did an interview recently too with her.
Yeah, she's wonderful. She does a lot for the community.
You touched exactly what I wanted to ask you about advocacy, and I think even earlier you spoke about being vulnerable, and that's how you've been able to reach and connect with people. And I think that's one of the hardest things for people to do. And for other people that's hard to do, at least you're reaching them, even if they can't speak for themselves, because being vulnerable, in my opinion, is like one of the hardest things.
Yeah.
So, while you're down, while you're having a good day, every time of the day, this is you and this is what it looks like for you. I think that's the most powerful message you can send, and also reach people in the mental health area, and beyond. So I think you're doing a wonderful job, and I'm really proud of you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. It's a hard thing to do, put yourself out there. And I was never that person. Yeah. I was the introvert, like stand in the back of the crowd, don't look at me kind of person. And one day I just was like, I'm going to post some stuff on Instagram, and then I'm going to do a TikTok. And it kind of just it just
Yeah.
latched on, and then Parkinson's looks like me kind of took its own path, and suddenly, we were connected to people in France. And France did Parkinson's Say Moi, and Spain did Parkinson's Looks Like Me, but they did theirs, and just for people from Spain, they did it in English. But like Compete Parkinson did their part, and we did one here, and then other people have done similar videos and stuff like that, and all these people are connected. Connected people in Northern Ireland to other people in Northern Ireland who now work out together. Connected people connected people in England who are now friends. And a lot of people don't know that Parkinson's Looks Like Me is me, because I don't really put myself out there, because I'm not looking for like, hey, look what I did. But I think it's really cool that the community is connecting, because the more that we do that, the more that we're going to plug those holes that need to be filled, and something is going to happen from it. I honestly believe that we're on the cusp of something very, very big for people with Parkinson's, and it's just a gut feeling, and a little bit of hope, a little bit of fairy dust, but I do honestly think that these candid conversations are really, really going to help in the long run.
I agree. Yeah.
What are some of the goals you have set for the future, with your awareness and advocacy?
We want to update the Parkinson's Looks Like Me video because it has old stats on it. The Parkinson's Foundation has now said originally they were like, okay, 60,000 people get diagnosed with Parkinson's disease every year. Now they're like, no, it's more like 90,000 people get diagnosed with Parkinson's disease.
I actually reposted the one you're talking about, and then they corrected me, which is sad because that's a bad sign. You don't want more people. You want less.
Like, no, that's the wrong one. But I mean, how quickly? We just put out Parkinson's Looks Like Me. We put that video out in like towards the end of August last year, and sometime in late spring, early summer was when the Parkinson's Foundation, right around Parkinson's Awareness Month, which is April, right around that time was when they changed the stats, and I was like, oh my gosh, that's so many people, and there's so few resources for people with Parkinson's here in the US. I can only imagine where it is, like how it is in other countries that don't have the benefits that we have here. What are they doing? 90,000 people a year. That's every 6 minutes, somebody gets diagnosed with Parkinson's disease in the US. It's a provocative stat. You don't think of it that way, but when it comes down to it, that's a lot of people every day.
When I research individuals who I want to share this journey, I've been trying to find unique stories, but also people like you mentioned around the world. And even the other day, I spoke to someone from Nova Scotia. I don't think I've ever even said that. But I actually did an interview with him, and then we just spoke with Parkinson's Africa. So it's really incredible because of technology, how you really reach people, and they need a lot of help because, again, they don't have the technology or the tools. So I feel like we're helping, one another. And I do think it's a smaller family, unfortunately, with the awareness. If you, Mark, and Esther were the first three individuals I loved when I watched all your, posts, and you were the three that kind of pushed me to do much more. So I have to thank you three. Or speak with Mark next month. But the three of you always go back. Like some days are hard and still miss my mother, but I feel like, giving up even though she's passed, but what motivates me to keep pushing is seeing the three of you and all the other people out there in the Parkinson's community. And I'm kind of aggressive, as you know, I'm pushy, but it's really, it's really for good reasons. Because I feel like if I miss, my goal too, like you said, is if I could just teach one person about awareness, and I've done all, it's enough. But it kills me sometimes in my heart that somebody I meet doesn't want to kind of share. And not if you're diagnosed, I completely understand privacy, but sometimes when like a big organization doesn't want to, that's the problem. It's really the awareness. We're trying to help awareness, and if they don't want to participate, it's kind of the problem. So that's one thing I always regret. I always say, even when taking care of my mother, we don't regret anything because we've tried everything. We were with her 24/7. It was not, that's another podcast for another day, but just, I think the biggest key is, like you said, just keep pushing forward.
I think so too, because there's so many people out there that I feel like have a voice or could have a voice that, that's what I like about what you're doing is the people that you're speaking to are so diverse
Okay.
that there might be someone out there that was like, I didn't even know that this person existed, like I speak to a man that's from Finland.
Mhm.
And you should actually talk to him after us. I'll
I'd
email
love
you
to.
the information. His name's Rami. I just found out that he's a DJ
Mhm.
and he's put out several albums over
Wow.
the years under a different name. And I've been speaking with him for a year, and
Mhm.
which is cool because same thing. Like I've never talked to anyone from Finland before.
Yeah.
I found another person from Finland, and I was like, hey, I don't know if you know this guy, but he's from Finland. Maybe it's close by. I don't know much about Finland. But you should definitely speak with him. He's an interesting guy, and I think it's really cool that we're able to connect, to all these different countries and find difference between what Parkinson's looks like here as opposed to what Parkinson's looks like in Africa, where like they think it's witchcraft, in
Mhm.
some
Right.
smaller countries. It's amazing to think that there's that kind of mindset still out there in the world, but it really is, and people with Parkinson's all over the world really need our help, and we have the ability, capacity to affect that, even if it's in a small way. And I find that pretty amazing. If anything, if I was gifted anything from this diagnosis, it would be the fact that I've learned that there's a bigger world out there than I ever imagined, and that's pretty amazing to be able to experience that.
Catherine, do you have anything else, or?
No.
Yeah, just to finish up, I also agree with what you're saying, and the one thing that also, I wish you can't reach everyone, obviously, but there's people out there that aren't aware of us, and that's why we have to keep pushing, keep doing what you're doing, and really wanted to again thank you for your time. I don't know if you had anything else you wanted to share before we wrap up today.
Uh, no, there's not too much else going on in my world right now. We're just trying to settle in here, and I'm gonna get back on the grind. My conversation with Senator Fetterman actually got canceled
Oh.
because but it's for a good reason. Is because there was too many people interested in speaking with him. And I answered that email within like 5 minutes, and they were like, "Well, you're low on the list of people, many people in front of you." And I was like, "Man," like it was only 5 minutes. But I'm gonna have another opportunity to speak, and I've still called my congressperson.
I went
And
on I went on a
regard.
letter writing campaign a few weeks ago, and I wrote to probably like 10 people. I still haven't heard from them. So you just got to keep, no, believe me, I won't give up. I'll keep sending.
Yeah, you're tenacious though, which is I like that about you because when I started doing Parkinson's like me, I was like, you want to write me a story? No, okay. You want to write me a story? No, okay. Now I'm like, hey, let me write the story about you. If you don't have time to do it, I'll do it for you, and I'll start writing it out.
I just feel bad. Like, again, I think you're inspiring, and I feel bad what people don't know about you. And the good thing is I'm in law enforcement. I'm a lawyer and a professor, so at least safe here on the good side.
Right, you're like your information. I think Greg is
And
actually
my
retired.
wife and I do a lot of the walks here for Parkinson's Foundation, for the American Parkinson's Disease Association. And I always tell this story on podcasts, but we'll have a table and we're in the middle of like all the pharmaceutical companies. So it's like, people are shocked when they come up to us and we just hand them the band. This is the band. I think I told you we have like give out free bands.
Yeah,
We really don't want anything but to tell them we love and support you and everyone. And when they find that out, they actually start crying and they hug us, and it's great. But I feel bad because it's like we don't want anything literally, and it's we kind of lumped with the pharmaceutical people who are selling health. We love them too, but it's just it's interesting how any awareness goes for anything, but Parkinson's is the one that I'm concentrating the most
yeah.
on. And my mother's funny too. If she was here, if you met her, she would be telling us, "Don't waste your time, George, and grab like go spend it with the kids." But that's not something we try and do the two, obviously, but I just find it like even not sharing someone's story is not just what drives me, but also kind of hurts me sometimes because I just feel that we need to get it more out there, and I don't want to leave anyone out, that's the big thing.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that too. Like it's so few and far between that you go to one of these events and it's not like somebody's looking to sell you something. And we did a symposium in April, and we had our Parkinson's Looks Like Us bracelets, and I was just like, yeah, here's a free bracelet, and they were like, for what? And I was like, because it's cool and you wear it, and they were like, well, oh, all right, like they just wanted to know, like, well, what are you about? And I was like, I'm just a person with Parkinson's talking to people with Parkinson's. And the people were surprised. They were like, what's your angle?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
That's
mean,
really all there is.
there could be someone, that never heard of any of us, and then they see this podcast, and you might even change a life. So that's why I
Yeah.
think we can all agree that we do this. So, and
Yeah.
then that I just wanted to really thank you for your time. I know I've been playing this for a while. I was excited for this
I
day.
know. I hear so much about you, Melissa.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, man, thank you. I'm so
The
glad
day
to
that
hear
Josh
that.
met you, he's like, "Oh, there's this lady on TikTok," and he's showing me the videos and all this stuff, and I was like, "That's really cool." And then I knew he would eventually get to you because, like you said, he's very persistent.
Yeah,
There's
it
nothing
was
that doesn't get in
great.
his mind or a person that he doesn't see that he can't get to.
Oh, and a good.
You've done quite a few people that I'm like, oh man, he did that. That's so good.
It's so
I
funny.
still, I think I get excited when they post because it's like, again, we're sharing someone's journey. But I think the day that you don't have that excitement is really the turning point. But right now, I just, there's so many individuals I've spoken to that, I'm excited that are coming, but also there's so many that I haven't. And even the other day, I just learned about someone else. And through the Michael J. Fox Foundation, I'm looking at all the nice books on their resources because they just recently added us. So I get to see all the other, yeah, it's amazing. I took 3 years of just telling people that, we want to support them. And Michael J. Fox's movie, I don't know if you saw, but that really did great. It's sad, obviously, but great impact because I don't read the comments sometimes on social media because unless it's ours, we've had really positive, but a lot of people on his comments or people who post about his movie were saying literally like I never heard of Parkinson's and I really appreciate you doing this movie because now I know what it is. So those are like just inspiring and life changing things. And I again just to end, I feel that there's somebody out there right now that's going through whether a caregiver like us or someone diagnosed like yourself and they are alone and I don't want them to feel alone. So I want them to know that not just this podcast, but we'll always be there. And we actually respond on like the famous celebrities to your to the messages and things. So I'm always
Oh,
available anytime.
yeah, I saw you got the Earth, Wind, and Fire. Really,
Hey, that
really.
was cool.
That's so cool.
The ironic thing is, I'm a bit. When my mother grew up, she forced me to listen to Lionel Richie, Kenny G, Michael Bolton, and Barry Manilow, and uh, I fell in love with Lionel Richie too. So we actually,
Oh
my wife,
yeah.
we saw him a month ago live. So
Same.
Earth, Wind, and Fire opened for them, and I knew who they
Yeah.
were, but I didn't realize that one of their main founders actually passed away, and he had Parkinson's. So
I heard that.
yeah, I didn't know that. So when I found that out, I figured I'd send a message to them, and I was shocked that they liked it. It wasn't the full response I wanted to do an interview with them, but that was still really nice that they liked it. So they know we're out there and we're fighting
I
for them.
thought it was great. Yeah, I
Yeah,
was so
just-
excited. I was like, oh, this is awesome.
and hopefully we'll be able to collaborate again. And I'm always
Yeah.
open to some ideas. Sometimes I sit there and stare. It's like you ever see those cartoons where you just have the bubbles trying to think like the cloud, and I'm just trying to think, and some days it's not happening. But
Some days you come up with a bunch of stuff, and some days you're like, I'm drawing a blank.
yeah, exactly.
But it comes. It eventually it comes. I'm not one of those people where I can post something every day. Like
Right.
Esther, she's amazing. She's got stuff going on several times a day, and I'm like, I don't know how you do it. She's like, I'm tired.
Sometimes I think I post too much, but then I feel like if I don't, it's I don't know. I don't even know why we post why I post. It's just kind of want people to be aware. That's all.
It catches on though, like eventually it catches on because it took me a while to get my things going. And like I said, I don't have a huge following as other people out there that have a following that's larger than mine. But the following that I have, I speak to every single person
Yeah.
that I interact with every single person that follows me. So, I know people's names and what they're about, and like I see their pictures and I'm like, oh, this is so and so and so and so. Like I have 1,000 friends just hanging around there, and it's awesome because it does affect change. You don't realize what you're doing. Posting, they say for the algorithm, posting 3 to 5 times a day is really good. So I feel like once that catches on for you guys, it'll make an even bigger difference. But in the meantime, you only need one person to affect change, and we don't know what's out there, that things that we've done for people that they've just not said anything. So I'm sure that there's so many more amazing things that you've done for people that you just haven't seen because they've not reached out. But that's the power of social media, which I find amazing.
It's funny. Together for Sharon is just me and my wife. So if everyone sees it, they think it's like this corporate. We're not even, we're just a website. So we didn't want to be a foundation for reasons. It's just accounting and math. But
Yeah.
it's just funny because it's just me. So when I've done about 300 interviews in 2 months. So I'm kind of trying to take a break. But then every time I say break, I see somebody else's inspiring story and I'm like, you can't stop now. So like I always say, we're just getting started.
I do the same thing. I'm like, oh, maybe I'll just take a little social media break. And then I'm like,
Yeah.
Later.
Yeah. Well, again, I really wanted to thank you for your time. I know you've just moved, so I'm really honored that you were able to join us today. And I was excited again, and we'll, obviously share this everywhere, share with you. But everyone listening or viewing this today, I want to thank you too for your time. This has been the Together for Sharon podcast with Melissa Livingston, and it's episode 3 of many. So hopefully we'll get to 300 someday. But again, thanks for all you do, your inspiration. Tell everyone, and again, you're one of the reasons I keep going. So thank you again for everything.
And thank you guys for having me. I really appreciate it. This is a great conversation.
Thank you. And I will be posting this soon, coming soon to a theater near you, everyone. Have a great day. Thanks.
Have a great day.